Hello everybody, this is Matt Bible and I am here with a very special guest for a monumental Boxbusters. This is Adam Kai. How you doing, Adam?
Hey, how you doing?
Not too nervous?
No, not too bad.
Not too nervous. A very special edition of Boxbusters where we will be opening, or Adam will be opening a 1993 Magic the Gathering Alpha starter deck. So before we do that, we will be also opening 2 starter packs of 1999 Magic the Gathering Portal 3 Legends. Before we do that, why don't you tell us a little bit about your background in Magic collecting and kind of what got you started and what your specialty is. What is it you like to collect with Magic?
Okay, I started playing Magic in 1993, just when it first came out. And I was in elementary school and middle school playing this game. And then around, I think, 1998 or 1999, I stopped. And then I came back in 2009. And, I had a lot more disposable income then than I did when I was in school. So I just kind of collected things that had a lot of nostalgic value for me. So mainly now I collect graded alpha cards. That's the first set of Magic the Gathering. So that's pretty much what I do.
Cool. Before we go on, I should also note that we're actually opening these for cardhousegames.com. And that is run by Preston Cordy, and his eBay handle is Kid Icarus 2000, where he sells all kinds of Magic the Gathering goodies. So let's go ahead and start with the Portal 3 Kingdoms. Did you want me to open one, or
I'm
did
just
you like
going
to
to talk about these real quick.
Okay.
Okay, so the main event is the Alpha Starter. Quality control wasn't too good back then, and sometimes you get beta decks with alpha cards in them and such. So we broke the seal on this one on the outside just to make sure that the corners are alpha for this video, and we have some still sealed packs of alpha over here. And the different, how you tell the difference between alpha and beta is that at the bottom for alpha it's completely blank, whereas beta you have a UPC code. Okay, and so the reason that we're doing these Portal 3 Kingdoms packs as an intro is they're pretty rare. These packs are about $150 a piece, but they were produced in 1999 versus 1993 for alpha, and I guess printing had improved significantly by 1999, and I just kind of wanted to show the Magic community how the original set would grade out and how after a few years cards would grade out, even though now in 2015 the cards are significantly better than even Portal 3 Kingdoms, but just to give a little bit of difference, and that's why I chose this one.
Okay, that makes sense. Right.
So we're going to start with these Portal 3 Kingdoms packs.
Okay,
and,
all right.
These are 10 card packs, and there's 1 rare and 2 uncommons, and I think there are a few commons and 2 lands in them. And they were made in 1999 for beginners. The Portal set was made for beginner Magic players, and these are especially rare. They were printed in English, traditional and simplified Chinese, and Japanese, and mostly released in Asia. So the English version is actually the rarest, which is kind of odd for Magic.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm just going to use the scissors and cut open the top so we don't pinch anything.
So what does the big get in this set? What's the big card to look for?
For the rare, it's Imperial Seal.
Okay.
The retail price on it is $900.
Okay.
And for an uncommon, it's Imperial Recruiter, which is a $300 card for an uncommon. So
we have a little bit of a bonus here today, possibly with these packs.
It looks like I didn't even get to the.
It's all right. Take your time.
Yeah. Just trying to be a little bit careful and not actually cut into the cards themselves.
You're right, they are. I'm just noticing with these packs, they're fairly tight as well, as opposed to some of the more modern Magic packs that I've seen. Right.
Okay, so the bottom card should be the rare. So we got a few commons. I'm just gonna hand through the commons. 3 visits. I can't remember. This might be like a $20 or $30 common.
Okay.
It's played in mostly in Commander. It's a style where you only allowed one of a particular card. Let's see. Okay, so we. All right. This is. Sorry, I think the rare here is Balance of Power.
Okay.
Okay.
So I can
So,
already
I didn't
see the
notice
difference between
anything-
the rounded edges and how
Right.
it's a little bit more compact than the earlier Magic sets.
Yeah, and then the bottom two cards are just lands, and I think this is pretty much the only thing that's notable, just the rare and maybe this 3 visits here. Okay, let's. I guess I should put the rare in a penny sleeve.
All right. And these are white bordered as well. I think we had a
Yeah.
conversation earlier that
Yeah, all
that
Portal
most
3
of them
Kingdoms are
okay,
white bordered.
so they're all white bordered.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And we talked earlier about how white bordered usually aren't as. Or is that just with the unlimited?
Well,
the 93 unlimited.
Generally, Wizards of the Coast used white border for cards that are being reprinted.
Okay.
So if you see white bordered, it always means that it's not the first set. But for this, it's a little bit different.
Okay.
I mean, there were 3 sets of Portal, and the third one even. Then a lot of the names are very different, but I actually have no idea why they chose to make this set white bordered. So. You want to?
It was one of those spontaneous decisions, maybe. It's like, hey, why not? Let's do a white
It
border.
does. All right, let's try this other pack. So
All right.
go for something more interesting.
Yeah. There.
All right, only one color this time. Okay, I'm just gonna fan through these to see if I see anything that's okay. All right, this is our rare. Nothing too expensive, but you know, the main purpose for opening this is I just kind of want to see how these cards grade out compared to Alpha in terms of the grades, and see, you know, percentage of 9/5s, 10s, something like that. So.
And for the record, we will be having a follow-up video of anything that we do get in the starter deck that is of some significance. We will be having it graded, and we'll be doing a follow-up video to kind of go over the differences and go over the grading process as well. So,
All right.
all right.
So
The moment of
let's
truth.
start with the starter. So I'm gonna slide this off the top.
As you can see, it is a very
Yeah.
tightly packed deck.
So you can see that there's a book, and what you want to do is take an X-Acto knife and cut, not on the binding side of the book, but where you can actually enter into the pages.
Mhm.
So I'm going to begin doing this, and I'm not peeking at the top card. And then I want to take the scissors and just snip it a little bit, because I don't want to pull too hard on the wrap and damage the corners. Alright, I should release some pressure there, and then let's see if I can- let's give it a couple more. Trying my hardest not to damage this.
They're making it very tough on you.
Yeah.
I think Wizards of the Coast knew that this deck was going to one day be opened on Beckett, and they thought, you know, we'll make it extra difficult.
Got it. There. Let's try this side. Maybe I'll have a little bit more luck with this. Okay. Well, this stack should be the commons, so it's easier to look out of the way. And then, okay, so the top two cards should be the rares.
Okay.
So let's put these, and these should be uncommons right here. And then these are commons. All right, so I'm just gonna put out any notable cards that I see out there.
Okay.
I can already kind of see, you know, looking at this top uncommon right here, there's a little bit of a indentation maybe from the book or something like that. So, all right, let's flip these over. Hill Giant. Oh, these cards do look really clean. It's nice to see alpha cards like this.
Yeah.
Okay, so you know, not too expensive, but this is it's a card that was played a lot. When it's reprinted in standard, it still sees play. Land of War Elves. Okay, here's a good one. Lightning Bolt. One of the original cycle of bangs. 1 red mana, 3 damage. Very powerful card. This card right here still sees play in Vintage and Legacy and sideboards. Maybe some people even play one of them as in the main deck sometimes. Okay, here we have a Sinkhole. I think this is like a $100 common. I think it's probably the most expensive common in Alpha. I might be wrong, but that's just what I remember. Okay, here we have a Stone Ring and actually a Holy Strength. These aren't too expensive, but I think a 9/5 of these cards do not exist right now. And or maybe it's the Holy Armor, I don't remember for this one, but I know for Stone Ring, definitely a 9/5 doesn't exist.
Okay.
And you can see that this card is a little bit off-centered.
Yeah,
from
it
this.
looks
Yep.
like both of them just a little bit.
Okay. All right, here's another notable card, Disenchant, played in sideboards. And then here we have just a Circle Protection. This is a cycle. I think in Alpha, I mean, there are 5 colors in Magic, but in Alpha they left out the Circle of Protection. I think it was black, and so there were only 4 Circle Protections. Where this is just the green one.
Okay.
All right. I think that's pretty much all the notable stuff. And just looking through it again. Okay. So I'll leave these here. We'll sleeve these up later, and
Okay.
no, I'm not just gonna leave them around. Okay.
All right. Yeah, we'll throw the rares right at the top.
Okay. So Lure. I'm not sure, but I believe this is a pop 1 on 9/5. So this one does look pretty nice.
Looks fairly
Yeah.
well centered and
Yeah, the centering is the hard part on this card.
Yeah.
So, well. Okay, this card, Instill Energy, not too expensive, but I think it's a pop 2 or pop 3, so it's pretty hard to get as 9/5 as well. So we're doing good so far.
pretty good tactic.
Now, let's see. Control Magic. This is a pretty popular card back in the day. It lets you, basically steal one of your opponent's creatures and use it for yourself.
Cool.
Let's see. Okay, so this card, Psionic Blast. It's a blue card, but it has the flavor of a red card. Basically, it lets you deal direct damage to your opponent or a creature, and so it's kind of just like in the sense of a lightning bolt. This card I think is only pop 3 for Alpha 9/5, so you can see it's a little bit off-center. That's what's difficult about this card.
Now, are there typically cards that tend to be way more off-centered than others? And
Yeah, if you ever get a Alpha or Beta sheet, what you'll notice is that these cards that tend to be off-centered, they're always on the same column. So you'll have like 2 columns of cards on the sheet, and they all tend to be off-centered in one direction. So I mean, it kind of makes sense that maybe like the die was lined up in a certain way, and then you just cut all of everything on a certain column to be mis-centered. I mean, yeah, off-centered. Okay, White Knight. This sees a reprint every now and then, and you know, it's might see play every now and then. Let's see. Okay. Then we have a Library of Ling. This card, I think, is a pop 2, and the second one just got graded, I think, last week. So that's pretty good. Uncommon if you can grade at 9.5. And the rest, nothing too notable. So we're just gonna put these here. And let's go.
Moment of truth.
All right, so let's go with the rares. First one, flip it over. Woo! A Mox Jet, Power 9 right there.
So there you have it. Right off
yeah.
the bat, we get a Power 9 Mox Jet.
Let's take a look at it. This card is a bit off-centered. This is the problem with this card is that it's usually shifted over to the right and to the bottom. The Mox Jet, there are only 2 copies ever graded in 9.5, and you know, and usually there will be a print dot on this card as well. I think maybe like a little bit over 50% of the cards will have a print dot on them, but pretty good pull for a first card. So let's put this in a sleeve. Yeah, this card does look a bit off-centered, but
It's still
we can't complain about pulling a Power 9. Right, so.
It's already a good day. So whatever, you know.
All right, so let's take a look at this card. All right, Mana Vault. Okay, so this card, you know, for people that don't play a lot of Vintage, they may not know what this card is, but I would say, you know, outside of lands, this is probably one of the 20 most powerful Magic cards ever printed. What it allows you to do is it costs 1 mana, but then it produces 3 when you tap it. So you can go on turn 1, play a land, play this, and can cast something that costs 3, when normally you can only play something that costs 1. Or if you save it, you can use it on turn 2 to cast something that costs 5. The downside is that when you tap it, it gives you 3, but to untap it, you have to pay 4. So it's kind of like one of those things to reuse it. You have to wait until one of those turns where you can't do anything, then you can just kind of buy it back. So, but yeah, overall, pretty good pulls. I can see that this card, it was the front card, and you can see there were maybe some surface issues. And you know, the biggest thing with starter decks is that they're so tight that sometimes the corners are pinched a little bit. And this one actually doesn't look too bad on the corners, but maybe the surface got a little bit dinged up. But you
Just
know,
a little bit, yeah.
Yeah, but the Mox Jet looks quite
really
nice.
good.
All right,
Okay.
so we'll sleeve this up, and we'll we'll come back later with after all the cards are graded.
Okay. Yes, we will have a follow-up with some grading to kind of go over the basics of grading Magic cards and why a lot of Magic collectors might want to consider getting their cards graded. I mean, what was the main motivation for you just to get your cards graded?
Well, you know, these cards are, you know, especially for Alpha, they're only 1,100 of each, and they're just getting increasingly rare, and, you know, I just want to preserve my cards. And, you know, I would say that it doesn't even have to be just Alpha, just anything you like collecting. If you want to preserve a card, getting them graded is a good way to do it. Right?
Definitely. So if you have Magic cards, you have some Alphas or Betas or Unlimited or just any Magic cards you want to get graded, log on to Beckett.com and hit the grading tab and check it out. Welcome back, everybody. This is Matt Bible here, along with Adam Kai, who's our resident guest expert in Magic, the Gathering cards. We're going to go over the grading process now, and I'm just going to let Adam take it like he did yesterday.
Okay, so yesterday we opened up 2 packs of Portal 3 Kingdoms, and a starter deck of Alpha, and we've been a little bit selective on the grading. And for the Portal 3 Kingdoms, it was printed in 1999, and we did a min grade 10, so we only wanted to pick out 10s. And obviously the printing process had improved a lot since Alpha, but it's still not the best compared to today. But just to give you an idea, out of 2 packs we had 20 cards, and only 1 card graded a 10. And you can look at it, it's a very beautiful card. It's just a basic Plains, and I'm not going to talk a whole lot about it because it's a 10. You can't critique it too much. And then you can take a look at the back. So just for expectations, you're not just going to crack open a pack and get a bunch of 10s, because we're grading compared to the ideal of a perfect card. Okay, so the next part, for the Alpha starters, we did a min grade 9.5. So pretty much anything that's Gem Mint and above, we graded. And we ended up with 23 Gem Mint cards and 1 Pristine. Okay, and I'll talk about that a little bit later, but we'll start out with a few other cards, and we selected a few cards that didn't get the Gem Mint grade, and we're going to talk about why and why this is common in Alpha. Okay, so the first one is a Black Ward, and this is an 8.5, and you can see that the centering here is an 8. So for centering, usually what they require is that the top to bottom and left to right needs to be 60-40. So you can see that this card, it's clearly off-center both ways, and that's why it only received an 8 on centering, and that's what's dragging it down to an 8.5, because you can see the other subgrades, 9, 9.5, and 10, they're pretty good. Next card, the Goblin Balloon Brigade. All right, so this card, kind of the same issue as the Black Ward, except it's not quite as bad. So it has 8.5 centering. Let me take a look at it real quick. Okay, so what 8.5 requires is that, for 8, we need 60-40 one way, but then the other way might have characteristics of a 9. So for this card, it looks like it only meets 60-40 from left to right, but then it meets a 9 for top to bottom, so that's why it made an 8.5. And you can see that in Alpha, there are a lot of cards that come out like this. That's why over half of the cards did not meet this Gem Mint grade. And centering was usually a big problem with Alpha cards. All right, and then we're going to take a look at this. It's just a basic land. It got a 9. This is just kind of like your usual pack fresh card that's got decent centering from Alpha. And you can see at the surface only got a 9, and you can see that there's a print dot at the very top edge, and that's probably why it received a 9 on the surface. Okay, so onto the 9.5s. Okay, so I've created a couple of stacks here. So total we had 23 9.5s and a 10, so that's 24 cards out of 60, which is exactly 40%. So we had 40% that were Gem Mint or better. So this stack right here, the tallest one, we have our, in Magic business we call basic 9.5s, or maybe basic plus. That means that one of the subgrades is a 9, and for all of these cards. I mean, don't get me wrong, these are still very nice cards, but over here, this is what some of the hardcore collectors will collect. So we have, I think, 6 cards here that have been graded with all 9.5 subgrades or higher, and collectors really like these because it means that every aspect of their card meets the Gem Mint grade. And additionally, on the Bedkit registry, you get a 9.6 GPA rather than a 9.5, which is nice for people competing with each other. Okay, so we're just going to kind of show you some of the cool cards that got the minimum 9.5 grade. And I'm not going to show all of them, but the Giant Spider, whenever it sees a reprint, it's played in limited. It's a pretty cool card. Control Magic was popular back in the day. You can take control of an opponent's creature. Lightning Bolt, still probably one of the most powerful and used cards printed. Atlanta War Elves
just a classic green creature, you know, mana acceleration on the first turn. So these are really pretty cool cards to get in 9/5. Okay, and then let's take a look through here and see what we have. All right, so and I'm not going to talk about the basic lands. So these are the cards that got all 9/5s. So these two, they have 3 9/5s and a 10. You know, the 10 doesn't really add any extra GPA points, but you know, as a collector, people generally want as high of a grade as they can get. And here we have a Gray Ogre. This card is actually, this was the 4th one ever graded a 9/5, and for it to be, you know, all 9/5s subs, it's pretty good. And then here we have Allure. So before today, this was a pop 1, and so this is the 2nd one of this card ever graded at 9/5. And the other one I think was just a basic, so this one has quads. So this is the highest graded of this particular card that exists. All right, and then moving on, we have 110. Okay, so this card right here is a basic island, right? And you can see it's pretty much perfect. Again, can't critique it too much. And you may ask, well, what's wrong with the corners? So, you know, with Alpha, the way that the cards were cut, you know, the cutting dies, they press down from the back of the cards. And a lot of Alpha corners, you can see from the back, you can see a little lift pushing towards the front. And, you know, it's just that it's not cut perfectly, even though, you know, maybe when you're looking at this card and you're just saying, hey, it looks perfect. But then when you look at it from the side, maybe it's just got a little bit of a lift, and that's why it doesn't get a 10 grade. And, you know, the price of this card, it's kind of ridiculous what a 10 does. So normally, let's say we're talking about a raw near mint card, ungraded, it's about $6 to $8. The last one on eBay, that was the BGS 10 of this particular version of the island, sold for $1,127. So that's a major price jump if you're,
It's a big
you know,
Twinkie.
Yeah. So, you know, one thing I want to state is that just because you open a starter, it doesn't mean that you're going to get a 10. Actually, I think this starter was pretty good overall. And how many 9/5s that we got, you know, 9/5s and 10s, 40%. That's pretty high for, you know, a deck that was made over 20 years ago. And, you know, I've known people that have cracked maybe 10 starters or more, and they've gotten one pristine card at 10. So I think we were very lucky to get one. And, you know, just for information, this island is, I think, it's the most common card in Alpha because, you know, basics are the most common, and then islands were on the rare, the uncommon, and the common sheets. So there were extra islands versus other basic lands. Okay, so next we're going to move on to the 2 rares. They didn't grade out as well, but, you know, it kind of gives collectors an idea of, you know, again, just because I'm opening something packed fresh doesn't mean I'm going to get a perfect grade. Okay, so here we have the Mana Vault. So this one got a 7/5. Okay, so this was the front card on our starter, right? So you can see clearly it's off-centered both ways, right? So only 60/40 both ways. And you can see that the surface was a 7, and then the edges only 7.5, right? And what I noticed when I pulled the card out was that there are some indentations along the edges that probably affected both the surface and the edge grade. And, you know, this is probably common just maybe from storage method or just how, you know, how people kept their decks over the years. And because it's the front card, it might get dinged up a little bit, right? And here we have the Mox Jet. And you can see that this card is even more off-center. And this is a very common problem with the Mox Jet. It's just that almost all of them are extremely off-centered. And you can see the 7 centering, just I believe the measurements mean that they have to meet 65/35 both ways, and you can tell that this card is, you know, much worse than the Mana Vault. And if you look at the edges and surface, they're a little bit better, 8 edges, 9 surface, and it probably, you know, had a little bit carry over from being the second card. When the Mana Vault was dinged, the edges got a little bit dinged too, but not quite as bad as the Mana Vault. Now, you know, if you saw the YouTube video last year, there was a gentleman that opened up an Alpha Black Lotus and it ended up upgrading a 9.5. I mean, that's just extremely, extremely lucky, you know, and fortunate, you know. And you know, one thing I want to talk about is there's some people that claim that, you know, he repacked his deck because generally Alpha cards, rares on the front follow a certain pattern on the sheet. But you know, because I have experience opening these decks, I know that it's not always the case. Some of the packs were hand packed, or some of the decks were hand packed, meaning that they don't have to follow a certain order, and this is the case for this particular starter. I believe that if the Mana Vault is on the front, you would normally expect a Gauntlet of Might. So, you know, it's pretty cool that we got a Mox Jet instead. Okay, so this is pretty much all the stuff that we have graded here, but before we leave, we're gonna share a couple of cards that are pretty exciting. I just wanted to share these with, you know, the Magic collecting community, and you know, I'm definitely very excited about these two cards. Okay, so let's skip to them. All right, so the first one, we have a Beta Scrubland. Okay, so I can't really critique this card. It's perfect on every subgrade, right? So currently there are 52 cards in Beta graded 10s, but only 2 of them graded all 10 subgrades. So, and you can see that there's a black label for it. It's a special. I think it looks very cool. One of my friends even told me that, you know, it looks like the black label was made just for Magic cards because they look so awesome. Especially this card. If you look at it, it's gold and black, just like the label itself. It's quite nice. So this was the first Beta card ever graded all 10 subgrades. So, and it's a dual land, which is rather iconic. Okay, and then we're gonna take a look at this second card here. Okay, so this is a very special card. It's an Alpha Ancestral Recall, graded all 10 subgrades. It's usually viewed as maybe the second most powerful card in Magic. You know, 1 blue mana, draw 3 cards. Some people would maybe even argue that it's more powerful than the Black Lotus, but I certainly don't view it this way. And it's usually the second most expensive Magic card as well. So, you know, these are 2 very exciting cards, and I hope the collecting community can appreciate them.
Well, that's a very interesting presentation. You're right, to look at these and to appreciate the fact that these cards are, you know, 20 plus years old, and pretty much all of these were just pulled out of a pack yesterday, and to have a 40% rate of 9.5s or higher is just, it's incredible. Yeah. So I'd like to thank Adam for being here and doing this presentation. He's definitely a pimp when it comes to the knowledge of Magic Alpha. So if you're interested in getting your cards graded, by all means check out Beckett.com and hit the grading link and see what it's all about. So for Adam Kai, I'm Matt Bible.